let's talk about first chapters. I've read a decent amount of manga, and I gotta be honest, there is almost nothing like reading the first chapter. Much like how it must feel to walk through the doors of Narnia, or to be isekai'd by getting hit by a truck. Diving into the pages of a series you've never read before is an experience like no other. You get introduced to a new world, a new culture, a new art style, new characters, and if you're lucky, a new story that you will end up falling in love with. Or if you're unlucky, a story you will end up dropping after chapter 3, and later see a Twitter post about it getting axed off Shōnen Jump. Such is life. But seriously, I've read so many amazing first chapters, and I've read some bad ones. But the experience is always, at the very least, interesting, and at best, life-changing. So it got me thinking, what actually goes into crafting a first chapter? Is there a way to tell the peak from the weak? This question ate at me. I did way too much research into writing techniques and concepts on creating the opening section of a story, then compared and contrast 3 of my favorite series to see if I can conclude which manga had anatomically the best first chapter. The manga in question are, of course, the big 3 as we know them today: Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. Series I've read before, but not from this analytical perspective. I want to break them down to their core, see what works, what doesn't, and finally decide which of the big 3 has the best first chapter. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored by Patreon, specifically my Patreon. As you guys know, making the videos as good as they are on this channel takes a lot of time. As production gets bigger and bigger, time frame for releases gets longer, which means less videos throughout the year. To circumvent this, I hire help such as editors for projects like this one. But I would love to eventually do this full time, so videos like the Johnnyverse projects become more of a constant thing. Which is why I started the Patreon, the one-stop place to support the channel and make more videos like this one happen. Not only will you be investing into the channel, you'll also get access to some nice perks. Videos a week before they go live on YouTube, previews for videos in production, and exclusive content like the extended Q&A, my Mr. Robot review, and more coming soon. So join these guys over at the JohnnyStar Patreon using the link below. Thank you to my patrons, and thank you for watching and supporting the channel all this time. Now, let's get back into it. So as I said, the series we are examining today are Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. Before we get into the manga, let's talk about what exactly we're looking for when analyzing them. What would we consider the core mechanics of a first chapter? Based on the reading I've done through articles and blog posts from different writers, and of course my own experience reading through multiple different manga over the years, I think we can boil down our requirements to the 3 most important questions that must be answered in the first chapter. What is this story about? Where does the story take place? What is this story trying to say? Now, all of these questions can be answered in a few different ways and have subdivisions we will try to identify. What is this story about? We'll deal with the basic plot, main characters, antagonists, status quo. Basically the kind of thing that you would read in a synopsis, but properly conveyed through the narrative. Are the events of the story immediately engaging? Who is our main character? What are their goals, and are we able to root for them? Who or what is the antagonist? Are they a person, a corporation, a force of nature, society itself? Status quo refers to the base outlook / lifestyle of our protagonist and the world they exist in. The point in their lives we are introduced to before the event that causes our hero to go on their adventure. Where does the story take place? We'll cover the setting, world building, and the rules. The elements that give the story texture. What is the culture of the world we're being introduced to? What's the geology? What time period does the story take place in? What is the power system? What are the races, the religion, political systems? The possibilities are endless when it comes to establishing your world, and it's important to give your readers a baseline to immerse themselves in it. The more the reader is enveloped in the world being created, the more they will be willing to explore it further. What is this story trying to say? Involves the theme and tone, the deeper subtext element of the narrative, and in my opinion, the most important to get right. What is the overall thematic element of the story? Is the narrative asking a question of the reader? What is the protagonist's inner desire? What is the lie they tell themselves and the possible truth they may end up learning? I'll talk about this more later, but when it comes to theme, if done well, it will have massive ripple effects throughout the story. Setting it up from the very beginning will give your story much needed cohesion. As for tone, the vibe of the narrative will help with the immersion. From how the characters behave, to how they react, to how the events play play out, how the environment looks and feels. Tone is genre defining. Can't have Looney Tunes antics while trying to play mysterious like we're in a Alfred Hitchcock film. Maybe if you're Tatsuki Fujimoto, but you get the idea. We'll grade each element on a 1 to 10 scale on how effective the series is at conveying the concepts to the reader in the first chapter. Will they clutch out with a perfect 10 out of 10 opening, or are these series not as good at bringing in the viewer as I remember? Let's find out. We're starting with One Piece, since it's my favorite, and surprisingly it's the one I feel like I have the least to say about. We'll see if that holds true. Off rip, we are hit with a powerful one-page prologue. For the uninitiated, a prologue is an introductory scene that is designed to provide needed context for the main events of the story proper. It's a very effective way to set up the stage for your reader, especially if you're introducing them to a new world of ideas. Not to say it's necessary to have in every situation, which we'll talk about more later, but it is a good tool and it's used to great effect here. We immediately learn this story is about pirates. The Pirate King is sentenced to death, and his final words sparked a great pirate era to hunt for a specific treasure. It involves a strong sense of adventure, which One Piece is all about. Before you even get to see the main character, you're able to immerse in the concepts. We got pirates, there was once a great king of them, big treasure, gotta find it. Cool. Jumping into the present story, we see the origins of Monkey D. Luffy, the protagonist. He's a bratty, rambunctious little kid from a small village who loves pirates and wants to join his idol Shanks on the high seas. After a run-in with bandits and Shanks giving up his arm to save his life, Luffy realizes what it truly means to be a great pirate and decides he'll sail out on his own once he's ready to face the world. The chapter ends 10 years later with Luffy finally sailing off on his own to become the new Pirate King. Nostalgia. Let's analyze deeper. The major strength in this chapter lies in its sense of theme. From the start, you get a pretty good grasp of what the narrative wants to say about friendship, responsibility, freedom. It's clear Oda wanted to instill a sense of joy, which is why you see people smiling, laughing, telling jokes, having a great time. Luffy's excitement about living like his idols is infectious. It's a very cozy narrative that wants you to have fun while you're reading it. Even when things start to get tense, there's still a sense of hopefulness. The whimsy never fully leaves. The narration also helps in this department. It's being told from this perspective of an unknown narrator, giving it the texture that is being read from a storybook. I'm also impressed at how seamlessly important information like the bounty system and the utilization of devil fruits is exposited. The moment the bandits start causing trouble, we learn that people take bounty numbers as a show of strength. But later, we see how that concept can be subverted, that there's more to being strong in this world than just a number. As for devil fruits, our introduction to them is Luffy, and since he's a kid, the powers don't seem that useful. He just gets made fun of, kicked around, beat up, almost drowns. You may not be resonating with the idea of devil fruits being interesting until the only area I think doesn't hit as hard as I would like it to is the world building and intrigue for future stories, which is wild to say about One Piece. The main setting is a quiet town with not much going on visually. There's a ton of talk about going to unknown places and sailing to different islands, but it's not enough to get someone excited about what they may find since there isn't much to go off yet. Everything is pretty simple for now in the setting department. The narrative intrigue is in the same boat. Luffy, who will end up being my favorite character of all time, doesn't have the kind of charm I want from him yet. He spends most of the story just being a loudmouth brat that people end up saving. If anything, Shanks is a more interesting character to follow. It's clear Shanks is the blueprint for the kind of pirate that we and Luffy should look up to. And the promise formed between them does endear us to the idea of an awaited reunion. But Luffy just isn't hitting yet. Great chapter with some fun elements that most readers I think would be interested to keep reading, but not necessarily compelled. Moving on, we got the first chapter of Naruto, and this one is a doozy. And also apparently the one to win based on a poll I did a while back when this video concept was in its infancy. You guys really love this chapter, so let's see if it holds up. And would you look at that, we have another prologue. Since we now have 2 prologue pages to compare, we can see how they can be utilized differently. With One Piece, the details are structured in a straightforward manner. We get more context for Gold Roger's death later, but for now, we can confidently take what we're seeing at face value. With Naruto, the illustrations are primitive, and this ancient scroll style of narration is vague. It leans more into the intrigue of what really happened and who are the people involved in this great battle against a mysterious beast. But of course, the purpose is to introduce us to the ideas and culture this series is presenting, which is ninjas. We got a big nine-tailed monster, shinobi clans, a Hokage, which is like the best shinobi, I guess, a sealing technique, so that means ninja arts. Sick! From there, we get into the main story. Naruto Uzumaki is a troublemaking young ninja from the Hidden Leaf Village. He's bad at ninjutsu and is always getting up to something, but the boy has big dreams to be the best ninja in the land. After failing his graduation exam, he gets tricked into stealing a powerful ninja scroll by a ninja academy teacher. It is revealed that Naruto is actually the fox spirit that we heard about in the prologue. A fight over the scroll ensues. Naruto beats the evil ninja and proves himself to his mentor, who grants him a graduation headband. In stark contrast with One Piece, this first chapter is jam-packed with so much stuff, even though the chapter length is relatively the same. Most first chapters I come across usually cover 50 to 60 pages, so that a short story with a beginning, middle, and end can be fleshed out. One Piece comes out to around 58 pages, while Naruto is 60. Only a 2-page difference, but Kishimoto really went in on setting up as much as he could to endear the reader to this story and where it may lead, starting with an establishing shot of the Hidden Leaf. The architecture and layout is so fascinating that I immediately want to know more about this village and what maybe other villages look like. Throughout the chapter, we get glimpses of different areas of the village, from classrooms, a ramen stand, the fields outside the village, as well as the outfits of the people who live here and the uniforms of certified Hidden Leaf Ninja. If there was anything I remember from watching Naruto for the first time as a kid, was how much I wanted to go to the Hidden Leaf, and the feeling can be attributed to Kishimoto's commitment to making this area so inviting. Naruto is a fascinating character from the jump. By all metrics, he should be pretty annoying. He's bratty like Luffy was, he's loud and overconfident, he pulls dumb pranks, and is not good at any cool ninja techniques. But his story is one of tragedy too. Our introduction to Naruto is him defacing the face carvings of the past village leaders, which appears to be a pretty big deal. He acts as if he doesn't care, but we quickly learn that he is an orphan and may just be doing this to get attention. This emotional context is later fleshed out more by Iruka, Naruto's mentor. Another similarity between Naruto and One Piece is the mentor character archetype. Luffy had Shanks, Naruto has Iruka. These relationships do a great job of providing an emotional through line, but I think it's done to a greater effect in Naruto. Naruto and Iruka's relationship is thoroughly explored through this first chapter. And instead of Iruka doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the plot progression like Shanks did, Naruto is still the focal point. His actions create the story from the very beginning, and Iruka is our guide to understanding our protagonist. The core themes of prejudice, loneliness, and how to overcome obstacles are represented through Naruto. He's relatable in every sense of the word. The truth about Naruto's relation to the Nine Tails, his journey to become a great ninja, whether we'll see more crazy ninjutsu like the Shadow Clones, all has me excited to see what else this story has to offer. I'm actually having a hard time coming up with anything negative to say about it. This first chapter literally has it all. Finally, we have Bleach, which I think is the most interesting case since it's formatted very differently from the other two, so I'm excited to cover it. We can see the differences immediately since Bleach doesn't have a prologue. As I said earlier, a prologue can be great for introducing your audience to new ideas, but it's not necessary for every situation, and Bleach is one of those instances where it's not needed. The first page is emblematic of why. This series is dealing with the supernatural. The setting is in the real world as we know it, so we as the readers don't need context for it. The characters we come to know live their lives as normal, but once those other factors come into play, that's when the story really goes on a ride. If you want your readers to go on that ride with the characters, the less they know, the better. Again, this works because the setting is so regular, the mangaka doesn't need to spend a lot of time establishing it to us. Just some shots of the town and maybe a location name so we get a general idea of where it takes place, and bam, the mangaka can now focus on all the other facets of the narrative. Oh, and before we get into the narrative, I can now talk about something else I love about first chapters: the introductory double-page spread. Some really cool art that is meant to encapsulate what we can expect from the series ahead. I'm a fan of double page spreads in general, but these are special to me, especially for long-running series because they're a snapshot of the heights of the art from the very beginning. But which one is my favorite out of these three, you're definitely asking? Well, I specifically waited until we got to Bleach to bring this up because I think Bleach is my favorite. Something about it just oozes aura, and in color, it's even more striking. One Piece is a strong runner-up because I love the art and the sense of joy just bursting from it. And then after that is Naruto. Art isn't as strong on this one in my opinion, and what's up with that bird? Okay, so you don't have a prologue, and you don't have a crazy, interesting setting to make your readers want to explore. How do you get them engaged with your story early? Well, easy. You kick them in the face, so to speak, with an extremely interesting character. That character being our protagonist, Ichigo Kurosaki. He's a tough, cool, abrasive teenager with a strong sense of justice. So of course, our introduction to him is Ichigo beating up some thugs who knocked over a vase for a dead girl. Remember that aura I was talking about earlier? Well, most of that can be attributed to Ichigo. Kubo struck gold with how much of an impression Ichigo leaves. Dude can kick ass, see ghosts, and that's all the context I need. Ichigo is a normal high school kid who can see ghosts for some reason. Along with a few of his family members, he crosses paths with a Soul Reaper who is on the hunt for something called a Hollow. The Hollow attacks Ichigo's family, and the only way to defeat it is for Ichigo to become a Soul Reaper himself. Pretty simple narrative, and not much in terms of thematic throughline. Where I think Bleach's strengths lie is in the build-up, exposition, and mystery. The story has a much darker tone than the other two. The concepts of life and death are more prominent here, and the dangers have serious consequences. The reveal of the Hollow hits because we got a sense of it lurking in the background since the start. Kubo at times cutting away to a shadowy figure in between sections of the story being told. Ichigo becoming a Soul Reaper is properly built up as well. He is shown to be altruistic, has a strong connection to spirits, and the shock Rukia has over his level of aptitude to the supernatural than any other human she's ever come across. Bleach has the luxury of not needing to flesh out the setting, so it can focus on other concepts. Expositing that kind of information can be difficult since it needs to feel natural. Naruto is in a school, so a teacher telling kids the importance of ninjutsu and ninja history is fair game. Since Luffy is a kid hanging around adults, it only makes sense for adults to explain things to him. Bleach has a harder job to explain why Ichigo has to learn what Hollows and Soul Reapers are, because he previously had nothing to do with that world at all. I think the way it's done here is fine. Some comedic elements to cover the awkward delivery, and Ichigo's skepticism does feel relatable. I can't say I'm a huge fan of characters just sitting in front of one another and expositing information, but if the situation calls for it, I can't complain. It's short, it's funny, it's fine. Plus all of the revelations about the spiritual world and Ichigo's connection to them does lend to pulling the reader along for what it might all mean later. Why is Ichigo so special? What is the Soul Society? What do other Hollows look like? What do other Soul Reapers look like? Ending with Rukia's shock at Ichigo's power is a great way to hook the reader, and it definitely hooked me. Not a lot going on in terms of plot, themes, and setting, but how strategic Kubo utilizes the strengths of each moving piece and his ability to set up elements to induce intrigue is A1. And with that, we have our ranking for the first chapters of the big three. One Piece, 8 out of 10, Naruto, 9 out of 10, and Bleach, 7 out of 10, making Naruto our winner for best first chapter. Like I said, Naruto almost has everything. It's packed with all the stuff that you could use to ingrain readers into a new story. Obviously, all three of these manga are great examples of first chapters. They are the big three for a reason. But Naruto was just so gripping from the jump, which makes sense why so many people love it. But with all of that said, if you ask me what my personal favorite is, I'd probably still say One Piece. At the end of the day, these scores kind of don't really matter. It's just the kind of story that I personally gravitate to, with all its feeling of adventure and hope around the corner. You may be someone who likes mystery and melancholy, so you may think that Bleach is better. Or maybe you want something more emotional and relatable like Naruto. All of these chapters do an excellent job at presenting the viewer with the core aspects that these series will carry till the end, or to its current run, because One Piece will never end. Writing a first chapter that will have massive ripple effects throughout your entire story is no easy feat. Mangakas put in hours and hours of hard work, sweat, tears, you name it, to make these series what they are. Every aspect is made with passion and grit. As someone who appreciates these stories, I do my best to have a deeper understanding of what actually goes into making them so good. I am by no means a scholar in literature, and nor do I claim to be, but I have formed a greater appreciation for the works of art I indulge in because I try to understand these concepts. This analytical experiment was fun, but I would want people to know things about world building and tone and prologues and character writing, not as a way to decide what series is factually better than the other, but to be able to better engage with the art you already love, or will come to love. But that'll be all for now. I be yapped on enough. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.